2022 Honda Civic Si. Is this the most fun and affordable car that you can buy for the money? That's what we're going to find out. Welcome to Car Help Corner, where we help you, the consumer, master the process of car buying and car ownership. The Civic Si is a bit of a legend in the car enthusiast community, with a history stretching back a few decades and a reputation for being one of the most fun and affordable cars that you can buy. But the Civic Si is not alone in this space. If you have a budget of, say, up to $35,000, there are a lot of great fun cars that you can buy at that price point. A few competitors to the Civic Si include the Hyundai Elantra N Line, the Volkswagen GTI, and the Jetta GLI, and even the Subaru WRX. So if you have a budget of up to 35 grand and wondering how does the Civic Si stack up against these other affordable performance cars, well, make sure to stick around until the end of the video, because that's what we're going to find out. So for those who don't know, the Si is the version of the Civic that you go for if you're looking for a bit of extra fun and performance. Unlike in the past where you could get the Si as either a sedan or a two-door coupe, in the current generation version it is only available as a four-door sedan. And even though there's no Si version of the Civic hatchback, there will eventually be a Civic Type R hatchback, which will be at a much higher level of performance and price. The Si is powered by a 1.5-liter turbo 4-cylinder engine producing around 200 horsepower and 192 pound-feet of torque. This is basically a tuned, higher output version of the 1.5 turbo found in the top trims of the Civic sedan and hatchback. And even though it is a little bit less power than you get with the previous generation Si, which did produce 205 horsepower, I actually think the power of this engine is more than adequate. It pulls extremely well with plenty of torque, no turbo lag, and it makes a pretty decent sound as you're accelerating too. And because the Si doesn't weigh a whole lot, just under 3,000 pounds, it has a pretty respectable 0 to 60 time of around 6.8 seconds, which is pretty decent. Now I know what some of you are probably going to say, isn't that the exact same 1.5 turbo engine that Honda had oil dilution problems with in the past? And the short answer is yes, but it's not quite as simple as that. Yes, when this engine was first introduced in the Civic back in 2016 and later in the CR-V for 2017, it did have a pretty serious oil dilution problem where the gasoline would mix with the engine oil, causing all kinds of rough running drivability issues and warranty issues for Honda. And while this was a pretty significant issue and a pretty uncharacteristic issue for Honda, which normally makes some pretty durable engines, Honda did step up and fix this issue under warranty. Honda updated the software, improved the parts, and even extended the warranty on the affected cars, so all of the cars built from 2019 onward have pretty much been solved. And while I obviously would prefer having a high-revving, naturally aspirated engine like the Si has had in the past, this engine wouldn't deter me from buying this car. And even though this 1.5 engine doesn't have as much power as you get from the higher displacement engines in the Volkswagens and the Subaru, all of which produce anywhere from 230 to 270 horsepower, one benefit that you do get with this engine that you don't get with any of those is pretty good fuel economy. The Si is able to achieve between 27 and 37 miles per gallon, or 6.5 to 9.5 liters per 100 kilometers. And even though premium 91 gas is recommended, you can get away with using regular like the other versions of the Civic. The same can't be said of the other performance cars, which do use a lot more gas and require premium. So when you consider the balance that this engine has in terms of its performance and fuel economy, it is pretty hard to beat. And the other thing that's great about it is the fact that it comes matched with a very smooth shifting 6-speed manual gearbox. The Si is one of the few cars left in the market that comes exclusively with a 6-speed manual, and it is a very good one. The shifter just has a great feel to it with short throws and a positive engagement, which is something that Honda has been doing extremely well for a long time. And if you want a manual gearbox on a Civic sedan, the Si is the only way you can get one. I guess Honda figured that anybody who still wants to get the manual is going to want the sportiest version of the Civic, which does make sense. Because the Civic hatchback, however, is also quite sporty and doesn't offer an Si, you do get the choice between a manual or the automatic on most trim levels. One thing that is unique about the manual on the Si, however, is the fact that it does have an auto rev match feature, which is pretty nice to have. The other thing that you get are 3 unique drive modes, including normal, sport, and individual, which basically adjust the engine response and the steering feel. Now the differences between the modes are pretty subtle, but I do prefer driving in sport mode for the better engine response and the heavier steering feel too. Either way, the Civic Si is a surprisingly sharp handling car. Compared to the regular Civic, you do get slightly firmer suspension, bigger brake rotors, and a limited slip differential. Now again, I'd have to say that the differences compared to the regular Civic are quite subtle, which was already a great handling car. But having said that, I'd have to say that the balance between handling and comfort is really well tuned on this Si. It feels incredibly responsive and well balanced with amazing body control, but the suspension is not too firm. It's still just comfortable enough to drive every day without any complaints. And the other thing that I like about it is that it's discreet fun. The differences between the Si and the regular Civic are actually pretty subtle. Aside from this unique orange paint finish, the Si badging, and that lip spoiler on the back, you really can't tell this apart from a regular Civic. Even the black 18-inch wheels that it comes with are the exact same wheels that you get on the lower trim Civic Sport. The differences on the inside, however, are more noticeable, with the most obvious one being the Si Sport seats. These seats are quite comfortable and supportive and come wrapped in a two-tone fabric, which does look quite good. You also get a unique shift knob, aluminum pedals, and a bit of red accents throughout the interior. All of the materials feel very premium and well put together, and this just feels like a very upscale interior when compared to most of its competitors. You get a 9-inch touchscreen infotainment system with Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and a really good user interface that's responsive with great looking graphics. There's also a 12-inch digital gauge cluster behind the steering wheel that looks equally good with lots of customization and has lots of really cool features. And this is an extremely well-equipped car too, with a sunroof, a 12-speaker Bose sound system, wireless charging pad with lots of connectivity options, and Honda Sensing active safety features. With Honda Sensing, you get features like automatic emergency braking, lane keep assist, lane centering with adaptive cruise control, and blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic alert. And not only is the Si extremely well equipped, but it's also very practical as well, with plenty of interior space, room in the back seats for adults to sit comfortably, and a surprisingly spacious trunk too. This would be an extremely useful and practical car to use every day with no compromises whatsoever, which is really one of the highlights of the Si. The other thing that's great about it is the amazing value that it offers. The Si basically comes one way with no options, with a price of just over $28,000 US, or around 35,000 Canadian. Now that does sound like a pretty big price difference, but the Canadian Sis do include heated seats and a heated steering wheel, which you don't get in the States. So where exactly does that place the Si when compared to its competition, and is it still the best, fun, affordable car that you can buy? Well, you can save yourself a couple of grand by buying the Hyundai Elantra N, which does have very similar performance and features for the money. But having said that, I do think the Civic Si is more fun to drive with better performance. It also has a much nicer interior than the Elantra, with a much higher quality feel, and it just feels like a more substantial car with better resale value too, so I really do think that you're getting more for your money with the Si. I also think that's the case when you compare the Si against the Volkswagen GTI or the Jetta GLI. Now both of those cars do have a great driving feel as well, and they do have more power from a 2-liter turbo engine, and you even get the option of a 6-speed manual or a 7-speed dual clutch automatic. But to get either of those models with comparable features to the Si, you do have to spend a few thousand more, and I'm not sure whether it's really worth the extra money. The Si is realistically just as fun to drive in the real world. It has an equally premium feel with a more functional interior, and I think you're going to get better long-term quality and lower repair costs with the Honda as well. Compared to Honda, Volkswagens are generally known to be less reliable over time beyond the warranty period, and they're also known for having higher repair costs too. And then of course there's the Subaru WRX, which is probably the most compelling alternative to the Si. For a pretty similar price, the WRX gives you a much more powerful 2.4-liter turbo engine, and of course you also get Subaru's symmetrical full-time all-wheel drive. You also get a choice between either a 6-speed manual or a CVT continuously variable automatic, which is a choice that you obviously don't get with the Si. But again, having said all of that, I really don't think that you're getting a whole lot of extra performance in the real world every day with the WRX. Realistically, both cars are equally fun to drive, and the WRX just has a few quirks about it that I'm just not that crazy about. For example, I think the Civic has a much nicer interior than the WRX, and it's much more functional as well when compared to the WRX's large touchscreen, which is just a total pain to use. It is nice having that all-wheel drive, extra power, and I guess the option of an automatic, but again, between the two, I'd have to lean more towards the Si. At the end of the day, Honda really did nail everything that matters to the everyday driver. When it comes to fun and performance, fuel economy, offering plenty of interior space, but not sacrificing anything when it comes to comfort or features, The Civic Si really does deliver in every single one of these areas. And it does all of that at a price point that really does make it an excellent value, especially when you factor in Honda's reputation for reliability and very strong resale value over time. It just goes to show that Honda still knows what it's doing when it comes to making fun, engaging cars that are just affordable to buy. And the amazing part is that this is not even the top of the ladder when it comes to Civic performance. We still have the Type R to look forward to next year. I really can't wait to get a try in one of those. In the meantime, let me know what you think of the Honda Civic Si. Would you buy one of these over other performance cars, or would you buy something else instead? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. You can also take a look at some of my other car videos by checking out these links over here. Make sure to follow me on TikTok and Instagram. And if you need any additional car buying advice, recommendations, or help with getting a great deal on your next new car purchase, make sure to check out carhelpcanada.com. Thanks so much for watching, and see you next time.